Hi everyone, this is Longvo. Today is October the 16th, 2012. I'm analyzing one of my games in the Burlington Chess Club. I'm playing white, currently rated 1590. My opponent Benito Surya, rated 1368, is playing black. So I start off with e4 and he plays e5. Um, so I'm a big fan of the King's Gambit, so I went with f4, attacking the center pawn, and he replies with d5, which I think is the correct move. I go e takes d, and he goes e takes f. Personally, I think if he went forward here, it would be better because for the King's Gambit to work, I really need this f file open. So if he advances, this pawn, even though I'm up material, I don't think I can defend this pawn, and he'll eventually get it back, but his position is probably stronger, keeping the f file closed. Anyways, he went e takes f, and I went knight to f3 to prevent the queen from delivering check, and he went knight to f6, attacking my d pawn. So now I develop the bishop to c4, defending the pawn, and also getting ready to castle. And he goes knight takes d5. So now he's defending his pawn, and he just got back his material. So now I castle, and he goes knight to c6, keeping his development. And I push for d4, opening the diagonal for the dark squared bishop, and just putting more pressure on this pawn here. And I also have my rook x-raying the pawn. Eventually later on, if I move the knight, it would be two attackers. So he goes bishop to g4, pinning my knight to the queen. And so at this point, so this pawn was not in immediate danger because I still had the queen protecting it. So I decided to keep more pressure with knight to c3. So the knight here is attacking his knight. I'm trying to remove the defender of the f pawn so I could take. And there was nowhere that this knight could move really. If he retreats, then the pawn falls. So I suppose he and if let's say he protects the pawn with the bishop, then the knight falls. So of course a lot of pressure is on these two pieces, and he decides to go knight takes c3, relieving the tension. I decide to go b takes c3. So now I'm okay with that. My pawns are doubled here, but I've opened up the b file for the rook, and even the bishop here if I decided to do something in that area. So I still don't like this pin here, but I was thinking of later on if I could somehow sacrifice the bishop here, and if he takes with the king, then I could deliver check, and then the bishop is hanging. But for that to work, this pawn needs to be out of there, right, so that the bishop could protect the knight. So that's what I'm thinking at this point. So the pawn here is not hanging still because the pawn is protecting, and also the queen. So I'm okay with the pin for now. Delivering check here with the rook or the queen is probably not a good idea. I would simply accelerate his development. So now he goes bishop to d6, protecting his pawn, and so here I am thinking of sacrificing the bishop, but I'm not ready yet because this pawn is still there. So I go rook to b1, taking control of the semi-open file with the idea of doing a rook lift to make the rook more active. So he defends with rook to b8. So that works for me because even though I'm putting pressure on the pawn here, the idea was not really to take the pawn. So I go rook to b5. So even now I'm having trouble finding a good square for my rook. Over here it's taken, this is taken. This is the only spot I could really go. Here is taken, and here by the bishop, the queen, and the bishop. But the presence of the rook here gives me more confidence for this bishop sacrifice, because if you look at the board right now, I feel that all my pieces are active. My rook is active, controlling the 5th rank. My bishop is eyeing the f7 square. The queen is ready to jump anytime on h5. The bishop, even though is not developed yet, is actually doing something, putting pressure, and the rook here has this the f file. So at this point I felt that I've activated enough of my minor and major pieces, and his king here doesn't really have too many defenders. So I'm happy with this position, and if he was to sit on the position, I would be ready to sacrifice the bishop at this point. Well, not right away, but of course I have to set up something else. But I feel that my pieces are pretty well developed at this point. So he castles, and so the bishop's sacrifice doesn't work as well right now. So now I decide to kick the bishop away so that I could get a good square for the rook. So obviously the rook is controlling h5, so he's not going to retreat it here. Here is taken by the rook. The other bishop is attacking here. I'm not sure if he went here, if I would have traded. But perhaps this would have been his stronger move. So if I do trade, then I'm losing attackers. And then once he takes back, he sort of closes the e file, protects the f pawn with 2 pieces. I think if he went there, it would have been a stronger move. Now, of course, my rook is more active, and I'll probably find a way to swing over here and just to exert a bit more pressure. And then eventually, move the knight over somewhere, and like perhaps here, and just putting pressure on the f pawn. Eventually, if the f pawn falls, then maybe the queen can attack. But so instead, he went to d7. X-raying my rook, which is okay, but you see he doesn't have too many defenders, so so now I go knight to g5 with the idea of putting pressure on the h7 pawn, bringing the queen in to harass the king. The knight is protected by the rook. So I think, I'm not sure here if he has any tactics, because, I don't know, maybe if he went, knight takes here, then the rook is under X-ray, under attack, and I suppose I saw this variation, so if I if I took here, he would take, and I think I'm still up. Well, yeah, now the knight hangs, and he gets to develop the queen, and I think he's not too bad here. There's another variation. If I move the rook here, then I'm not sure if, he'll probably just retreat the knight somewhere here or here. But at least this way he brings his pieces closer to the king, and I think my position would be lost, right? So if he did something like this, I'm not sure how to continue the attack really. Yeah, I could go queen here, but I think he would be able to defend. Or he could even go the knight here, just to disconnect the rook here. But I'm not sure if that's a good idea, because that's simply take, and his piece is also hanging here. So he decides to kick the knight away with h6. So here I thought for a while. So I felt that I had enough active pieces to do some damage. So obviously this pawn is hanging, and if that happens, then the rook here has a nice open f-file. So I decided to be aggressive, and this was the time where I thought the bishop sacrifice made sense. So this is a forcing move with bishop takes f7 check. So I was sure that he would take with the rook, and I would simply take back, because he's not gonna simply run the king, right? And that's a lot of pressure in the king area here. And plus I have a lot more active pieces, and this pawn here is about to fall and all that. So I thought that he would take, which he did. So rook takes f7 and knight takes f7, attacking his queen. And so this is another position where I thought that he would have to take with the king, because if he simply escapes the queen, then that doesn't, he would be down an exchange. So I felt that was the forcing move, and king takes f7, and that's when I activated the queen to h5 check. I'm still having trouble activating the rook here, but if things clear up eventually, I'm sure I would have found a way to make the rook active. So he goes king to g8, and now I activate my bishop with bishop takes f4. So here the idea is to probably sacrifice the bishop here later on for 2 pawns, which I think it's totally worth it, which will enable my rook to become active, and this f-file is totally open at this point. So that's my threat, and so now he goes knight takes d4, attacking the rook. So if I take, he takes, then I take, and this is pretty much almost even, I suppose, except that his king is not very well protected, and his rook is less active than my pieces. So I still have the initiative, so that could have worked out for me, but I felt that the rook here was not very active, right? His bishop here is really the only defender of the king. This bishop is a little bit too far from the king, and these 2 pieces are totally out of the game. So I felt the bishop was more important, so I went bishop takes, So I went, instead of taking the knight, I went bishop takes d6. The threat here is now the f-file is totally open. The bishop and the rook are controlling this key square here. There's ideas of delivering check here, putting a lot of pressure on the king. If the king goes here, then I could always bring the bishop back or find a way to bring the rook over. But the real threat is rook to f8, attacking the king and the queen. So that was the real threat, and so now he decided to go bishop takes b5, also attacking the rook, and I suppose he felt that if I took, well, right now my bishop is hanging, my rook is hanging. If I take the knight, he'll take the rook, I take back, and then he'll take and he'll be up a rook, right? So I think I saw that. So now I proceed with my plan. I proceed with my plan with rook to f8 check. So that gets my rook out of trouble, and then once he takes with the queen, which is forced, my bishop will be exchanged. So he has no choice but to take with the queen. Queen takes f8, and bishop takes f8, and rook takes f8, and now I take c takes d4. So you could say we're close to equal, with these two pieces being close to equal to the queen. Now the bishop is still hanging, so he goes bishop to c6, retreating the bishop, but I do feel that I have the upper hand here because the king is not very well defended. Because of the light squared bishop, all the dark squares are pretty much safe for me, for my king. So I didn't think that he could really checkmate me at this point, and I could be more aggressive with the queen. So I found this move here, queen to a5, double attacking the two pawns here, and so of course one of them would have to fall, and he goes bishop to e4, attacking my c pawn. So I take the opportunity to take the queen takes c7, creating a pass pawn here, and defending my my c pawn. So he goes rook to f7, attacking the queen. So at this point, I decided not to stay connected to this pawn, because this pawn was already a pass pawn, and I felt that if I started attacking his pawns here, I could put more pressure than if I just stayed passive and let the two connected pawns here give me a headache. So I decided to go queen to b8 check, to attack the a7 pawn, knowing that this pawn would fall, and so he blocks with rook to f8, queen takes a7, bishop takes c2, and well, now I get another pawn with queen takes b7. So I have two pass pawns, and so I feel that I have the advantage, and I don't think there's anything that he could do to attack my king, really. So he retreats the bishop to h7, because the queen here is extremely dangerous, because the the board is totally opened, and I guess he felt that he didn't like the idea of just leaving the bishop unprotected, uh, because of the ability of the queen to double attack. So he retreated the bishop to h7. However, he's leaving this diagonal here pretty weak, which means that if I decide to check here, I could check here. There's other ways for me to give him a headache. So I start pushing pawns. Now I didn't want to push the d pawn, or else that could be a mistake. And then he would pin the pawn and then maybe put more pressure. So I decided to go with the a pawn to a4. And the idea here is just to exert pressure with these double threats here. Perhaps play on the dark square. So because my d pawn is on a dark square, protecting it is pretty simple. The bishop can't do anything, and the other pawns are too far to attack. So the only thing is the king that could be active. However, the queen is controlling the square here. And so my idea is probably to maybe put my queen on a dark square, and then just to push the pawns. And if he decides to activate his bishop and bring it back in the game, then I'll think of moving the other pawn. But right now, as things are, the bishop is inactive. As long as I keep pushing, I think I'll be fine. So he goes rook to f4, attacking the d pawn. And I guess I could have simply played queen to b6, protecting the pawn, and then keep pushing. But I felt his rook was a little bit too active here, right? Like I don't know. He might find other ways of maybe making his other pawns more active, and with the rook supporting them, he could probably cause some problems here. So I decided to go queen to b8, double attacking the rook and the king. So you never know, right? Like if your opponent makes a mistakes and runs the king, then the rook falls. But of course that was pretty straightforward. So he saw that, so he went rook to f8, and now I go queen to b6. So with that move, I'm, I guess, reminding him how powerful the queen can be with these double attacks, and he has to be really careful. So I guess in a way it's making him less active. And so now he goes rook to a4, trying to attack my pawns. So now I just push with a5. So at this point, my idea here is to keep pushing, and once it gets to h7, I'll probably trade the queen here for the rook, and once he takes, then I would take back and get a queen again. So I would be fine. That is, if he decides to keep the bishop inactive. So now he goes bishop to f5. So same thing. He has to be really careful, because if you went to, let's say, if you went to, let's say, e4, with the idea of supporting the rook and controlling the a8 square here, there's a lot of tricky double attacks that my queen can make, and that would spell big trouble for him. So he went bishop to f5, I suppose, to I don't know, go here to defend here, but it's just one step too late. So I go a6, and he decides to make his rook a little bit more active with rook to c8. So I keep pushing, and there's no way for him to stop me at this point. So a7, and he goes rook to c1 check. So here, if I go to h2, then he could probably defend the square here, and also put pressure here, and eventually if somehow he gets his rook in here, it could be big trouble. So I decided to escape my king towards the f2 square. So now here he goes rook to c2 check, and this works for me because my king is becoming more active, and he could be defending the pawn here. I'm very careful to stay on the dark squares, so the bishop will be inactive. I'm not worried about this pawn here because once I queen, the queen would be protecting the pawn here. So I decided to go king to e3, and he went rook takes g2. So he made a mistake here. So once I queened, check, and then the rook falls. So he went king to h7, and I went queen takes g2. So at this point, my idea is to, well, my opponent resigns at this point, but my threat is really to maybe get on the dark squares. So let's say if he plays a move here, I would simply get on the, well, sorry, not that move. If he just makes sorry, not that move either. If he just makes a waiting move, and yeah, there's not too many moves he can make at this point. But let's say he makes a waiting move. My idea is to go on the dark squares over here, and then eventually checkmate him. And if he goes back here, and as long as I'm on the dark squares, there's nothing he can do. And then this would be checkmate. So my opponent Benito is only 9 years old, so I congratulate him in playing a really good game, and I think he has a great future, and I'm really happy to see young kids these days being so strong, and I wish him the best, and I hope that he will eventually surpass all of us at the club, and